It's Superman Day, which means it's a good day to look at some Superman comics, also featuring Batman when they team up. So there's sort of a history of this with DC Comics of, for the longest time, you can see right here, the original title, World's Finest, was basically a team up comic running for decades featuring Superman and Batman in every issue. And of this, I only have the last issue of this volume, which is issue 323 from, what's that, January 1986. That was before the big Crisis reboot where they basically restarted all the characters with new continuity. Perfect for young kids at the time. But, more recently, they've got the new volume of World's Finest, which is now up to issue 50. So this has been written by Mark Waid for the entire volume, and for the longest time featuring art by Dan Mora, who did the cover here, the second cover. As you maybe can tell, there's the first cover. This is a variant by Salvador Larroca, a 1 in 25 variant. And the way DC works now with their variant covers is they put them on cardstock over the normal cover, the A cover. So if you just buy, the regular version of Batman Superman World's Finest issue 50 of the new volume, then this is the cover by Dan Moore you're going to get. But, it's not like you're losing on the deal. That's still great work. In fact, Dan Mora, everybody loves this guy with good reason. So he did the first story here, and we'll focus on a couple of these pages. You could just tell immediately, like, this guy is dynamic, he's interesting, drawing a lot of fun stuff. I mean, this is all to give you sort of a quick uh, uh, synopsis of the story going on here. Superman and Batman have to go into the dream realm to fight Dr. Destiny, who you might remember from a pretty intense issue or couple issues of early Sandman comics that then they turn it into a Netflix show. So maybe you saw that episode in the diner. Say no more, say no more. But here, in the dreamscape, Batman and Superman, first of all, driving in a Superman version of the 66 Batmobile. And then it's a dream. So it's sort of dream logic. Things are just changing at a moment's notice. We've got the 89 Batmobile. And then in a quick panel here, the Tumbler from the Batman versus Superman movie. And then as we proceed, it just gets more exciting, more dream stuff going on. We've got basically what, Golden Age Catwoman, and then the more modern, I think this is like the 90s Jim Ballant version of Catwoman. Uh, and it's just, it's fun. It's a fun little story with these Easter eggs of callbacks to prior things like, sort of the vampire Batman that I've commented on before, sort of the Kelly Jones approach there. And then here we've got Skeletor. No, I'm sorry. I mean, Dr. Destiny shows up. They got to fight him. They beat him real quick. Well, first of all, Batman and Superman fight each other. That's what the heroes always have to do in a story like this. Fight, 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 then team up. So team up. We're your worst nightmare. Then they go and beat Dr. Destiny. Zatanna was there too. So that's the end. Oh, is this down here? Is this a reference to Predator? Seems like I didn't catch that on my read through, but it seems pretty obvious now. And then there's a second story here that focuses more on Batgirl, Supergirl, Robin, and Jimmy Olsen as these four sort of constantly fighting teen sidekick characters that are going to go, they're competing with each other to go find an ancient Egyptian statue. What does Batman call it here? The Egyptian statue of Dur-Law. But then, spoiler alert, they find it, and it turns out it wasn't Dur-Law. It was, as Superman says, Durla, the planet of the shapeshifters. And then it immediately, the statue, they remove the knife, it turns into the alien. The alien shapeshifter turns into a Kryptonian Drong. Sturman Drong? That must be the title. Is the title. So anyway, that's the World's Finest 50. Good volume, a lot of great stuff in here. Dan Mora is no longer the regular artist on this title. I definitely wish he was. The artist in the second story there, Adrian Gutierrez, I think is the new regular artist. And he's pretty good too. But Dan Mora, again, everybody loves him with good reason. And he's one of those guys, I think he's influenced by a lot of different artists. But, throwback here to 90s Superman Remember when he had electric powers? Which, let's see, great opening 2-page splash here by Stuart Amonin and Jose Marzan Jr. as the inker, Penciler inker team. Stuart Amonin, I think, is a huge influence on a lot of comic book artists working today. I don't think it's like a one-to-one comparison where Dan Moore is just doing a stylistic ripoff of Stuart Amonin. I mean, he's bringing obviously his own thing to the table. But I mean, I think if you look at the Stuart Amonin comics, and Stuart is still drawing comics today. Like more recently, he was doing, I say recently, but it's like 10 years old now. Spider-Man comics, a Magic Order series with Mark Miller. But I think there's, again, just a lot of the same comic book storytelling DNA. Like here, I was looking at this panel earlier, and this pose that Superman's making, that body language is very much the liveliness of that, the dynamism of that is something that I think Dan Mora does pretty well too. And also briefly, I wanted to mention, you can see over here, the in-between state for World's Finest Comics. So World's Finest Volume 1 ended in the 80s. This one, the new volume, began, I guess, in the 2020s. I don't know that there was a Superman Batman team-up comic regularly in the 90s, but in the 2000s, we had Superman Batman. So this was a revolving team of artists on each story, always written by Jeff Loeb, and some pretty good stuff. Early stories were drawn by Ed McGuinness. Then we had Michael Turner, and then this, I think, third story in that series, art by Carlos Pacheco. Rest in peace. Sadly, he passed on, but left a great legacy of artwork. And again, calling back, let's find like a good example of this. Good storytelling here, but where's the pinups? Oh, this is, if you know, you know, this is how Superman shaves. He's got to reflect the heat vision off a mirror because razors just aren't going to cut it. Oh, here we go. So good double page splash here, big Superman statues. But there is, I think, again, some of the same DNA in Carlos Pacheco and Salvador Larroca. Like I always thought back in the 90s when these guys were starting out in comics drawing different X-Men books, I was like, these guys have something similar going on. But again, I wanted to just make the point that in the 2000s, they didn't have World's Finest, they had Superman Batman. And then I'll also just briefly mention it's Superman Day today as I'm recording this. And then here is some Superman art in the style of Dan Jurgens, the man who killed Superman, the artist who killed Superman, at least drew the comic. Well, and wrote the comic too. But I was drawing some Superman in honor of Superman Day. You know, the rest of it got Batman and then a couple of more anime cyborg mecha girl characters. What can I say? That's my Justice League. So there you go. Brief coverage of New World's Finest, Old World's Finest. That's what they should call it, Old World's Finest. Superman, Batman, and just for fun, some commentary on Stuart Amonin. So hopefully you're having a great Superman day. If you like what you saw here, hey, be sure to smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.